Hi newbies, Nurse Ruthie here, and you're listening to the Newbie Nurse Podcast. One day I just woke up and said, I want to start a podcast. I've been a nurse for about 13 years. I've worked in pain management, med surg, and a majority of my time in the ED. My goal is to assist new nurses into the crazy yet rewarding world of nursing. Hi newbies, so today we are going to speak about CYA, cover your ass. I'm sure if you've gone through orientation already, you've already been precepted or being precepted right now, your preceptor has said this term CYA, cover your ass. It is very important. There will be many times in your nursing career that you are not sure what you should do. I mean, your number one resource is your charge nurse, but let's just say for whatever reason, you have to go above your charge nurse. Go to your policy and procedures. If you follow the policy and procedures, you will never get in trouble because it's written there in black and white. And let's just say it's some crazy thing that's never even crossed their mind and they don't have a policy for it. You should have risk management on board. There should be a phone number that you can reach them 24 hours because that facility does not want any kind of lawsuits and plus, you want to protect the patient and their employees. And let's just say that this is a question that you have about your place of employment, like you don't feel comfortable going to HR. You could also, if you are lucky enough to have a union rep at your facility, you can contact them. Here in Florida, or the places that I've worked, only one, it was actually HCA that had a union, but it's not like the ones in California or New York. You can't go striking and all that. And that is all I will say about unions in Florida. I am pretty sure you have also heard the saying, if you didn't chart it, it didn't happen. It was pretty interesting. I did go to the NurseCon cruise, Nurse Blake's cruise, the very first one. And he had a speaker and she was talking about charting. And she says that it shouldn't be that way as far as if you didn't chart it, it didn't happen. Which was interesting because, if it's not written down, it didn't happen. Of course, everyone is entitled to their opinion. But I always think about what would a lawyer ask? Usually when you're called in, when you get a subpoena, when you're called in, that it could be years later. And unless you have impeccable memory, you probably won't even remember, unless it was a crazy situation. Even then, you're not going to remember every detail. So you're really going to have to depend on that chart. So whatever you write in that chart is what the lawyer is going to see. Sometimes nurses oh, should I chart this? Should I chart that? I'm I don't know. You think the lawyer would want to know that? Another newbie nurse tip is I always, when I get to my assignment, I always type nurse assume care at this time because that patient could have been sitting in that room for hours. The tropes, EKGs could have not been done. And then, let's say, God forbid, something happens to the patient and a year later they pull up your chart and they say, oh, she was assigned, Nurse Ruthie, you were assigned to this patient. I see that the EKG, it took you 2.5 hours to actually do it. This could have saved the person's life. But in reality, you were probably in the shower at home. So I believe it is important to write down that you assume care at that time, just as a reminder to yourself. I even chart when I give patients blankets or beverages to their family members because you'd be surprised. Sometimes some patients, I don't know what it is, but they say, oh, she didn't come in. I didn't see her for hours. And I tell you what, look at that chart because I came in and I got you a blanket. I did this, I did that. And some nurses may say, oh, that's way overboard. But hey, I'm CYA. Also, if you've already gone through orientation, this has probably sadly happened to you. You have completed something, you hand it to your educator, manager, whoever's onboarding you, and they lose it, or they say they can't find it, or they never got it. Please make copies of everything that you turn in. I'm lucky enough to be able to just scan my badge onto the printer. I can scan it and it goes straight to my email. So that way I can keep track of things. Things that you want to keep track of are definitely any kind of overtime compensation, any kind of contracts, any type of certificates, any checkoff sheets, anything that you do not want to have to do over. Another newbie nurse tip here, also take a picture of your final schedule. Some people like to print it out. I like to take the picture because then I know what day, what time I actually took that photo of my schedule. Because sometimes the schedule is changed and for whatever reason, they forget to tell you, hey, I switched you, even though I don't think they're supposed to do that. But sometimes it happens and then you miss a day and that you're no call, no show. And you're like, wait a minute, I wasn't even scheduled that day. But then you look on the schedule and then now you're on the schedule. So if you actually have that evidence of your prior photo, perhaps that could CYA your ass. Also, incident reports. Incident reports are not so much of a bad thing. I mean, it's more for quality improvement, and it really should not be punitive. So incident reports, again, you do not chart that you have written an incident report in the patient's chart. But you want to report anything that's abnormal, such as if a procedure was not followed and it could have caused harm to the patient. And my last newbie nurse tip would be, I'm talking about narcotics, wasting meds. I know sometimes you're busy, but you need to waste the medication in front of another nurse and have them witness it right away, because you don't want to be accused of taking narcotics, okay? And that leads me to something else. When you pull a narcotic, that's going to be under your name. At times, some nurses will give that narcotic to another nurse. Hey, can you medicate room so-and-so with this morphine? Well, please don't do that, because that could be a huge problem. Because let's say that nurse loses, this is air quotes, loses that narcotic. Guess what? You guys are both going to have a vacation until your drug screen comes back negative. All right, newbies, if you have any questions, you have any topics you want to talk about, be sure to email me at Newbie Nurse Podcast at yahoo.com. You can also find me on Insta, TikTok, and Facebook under Newbie Nurse Podcast. I hope you have a wonderful week. And remember to practice the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated. Bye. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speaker and do not reflect the views or position of any entities they represent. Hey newbies, if you're liking this podcast, or even if you don't, like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.
Oh, thank you.